good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be residing. For those who are new, my name is Day. I am the founder of Arabbitshole, where we dig deeper with music. And today, for Conversation 21, we're doing a deeper dig on Oddity at beautiful Joaquin Miller Park. Oddity is an artist that really kind of has the emphasis of what it means to be authentic in the jazz music space. She's from Oakland. She's from the Bay Area, and having this artist with this type of impact come on today is very essential because what we do at a rabbit hole, or what I do with a rabbit hole, is digging deeper with music. And so I believe that she's an artist who is definitely doing that and doing more. Enjoy episode 21. Please, if you're able to show support by any means, much love. But nah, real talk. It's a pleasure to have you. It's a pleasure to be out here.
Thank you for having me.
Just a little, just a little, like a little explanation for who Oddity is. Coming across her music, she's someone that's very composed, and she embodies a lot of like energy that's felt in her music. Like you can sense that through her albums of Oddity Part 4, Part 3, Part 2, and just kind of having that or that type of energy. It's kind of hard to find nowadays. So I'm just gonna ask you like the first question that I always ask everyone is, how will you describe yourself as a person? I feel like, as I explained it, you carry all these energies, all these personalities, but for you, how will you describe yourself as a person?
I would say a bottom. Just kidding, not really. But yeah, I feel like traditionally I'm like your suburban Asian kid that's just been like, "Arr!" Like play piano. You know what I mean? Like go to Ivy League school. Like do computer science. Like many of us. And so my answer to that question earlier is 8.5. 8.5. But it's not a competition, it's no comparison. But yeah, I feel like, I have a lot of fire and earth in my chart. Um, a lot of fire in my chart. Um, and some people that know me well know how fucking crazy I can be. But I feel like on the surface, people are like, oh, but you're like so like chill and calm and shit. You're like, you've got like, I have no water in my chart whatsoever.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I feel like fire, everyone thinks of like, like just like, like,
Mm.
look at me. And there's some of that for sure. But, I think a lot about Zuko. Or just about fire, how like, when Aang's learning fire bending and he can't control it,
Mm.
um, it's like either the fire is like just like raging or it's just like a little wisp,
Mm.
you know? And I feel like I tend to vacillate between those two extremes traditionally. Um, and more recently is just trying to find like a balance, a
Mm.
balance there.
So it's like a sense, yeah, of controlled like chaos, you would say, with the fire, because Zuko in the series, his fire at the beginning was like super outrageous. Man, as soon as he met like Aang and everyone, it started to become more like controlled.
Right, well, that's because he like originally bended out of like hatred
Mm-hmm.
and anger, which is, I feel like I really channeled that a lot, especially going into middle school, growing up in white suburbs. I'm like, I hate everybody. Like, I'll fight anybody, you know? And, uh, and yeah, I don't know. It's like eventually Zuko learns to bending from the drags in the sun, you know? And I can't really photosynthesize, but um, yeah, I think there is something about like using fire as like a sustainable way of bringing warmth, like energy, life, cook with it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah.
And how did that like all those personalities kind of got you started with music? Like, what was your background with music?
Yeah, so back to the trauma.
Back
No,
to the
I mean low key though. Cause growing up, uh, music was, at least piano was what I first started with. Um, it was very much like you just have to sit there for 30 minutes and you can't do anything until it's over. And then I had teachers that would like hit my hands and shit
Mm.
too. And especially with my dad, I feel like I developed a relationship of like, oh, I just like never want to practice. This is like kind of tough and shit. And it was more through like school where I like developed a relationship with the trombone and then eventually sort of discovered and fell in love with jazz that I feel like I really opened up more to like what music has to offer. And I think once I learned that, you know, music could be so like expressive and so visceral and so in the moment, things that I felt were kind of lacking in the sort of traditional classical upbringing. I feel like that is really when I started to just like get obsessed with it.
Mm.
Um, and then I think it was more so like late high school, college when I really got like introduced to like neo soul and hip hop and just started falling in love with like those forms of expression as well.
So it's kind of like having two forms of genres, neo soul, hip hop, and kind of like fusing that into the jazz genre where you're really just kind of dipping your toes into all different areas all at once.
Yeah, yeah, no, I feel like those are, in my opinion, just like some of the most real and rawest genres out there. You know what I mean? Just like for some reason, I just never really resonated with a lot of the music that the people around me were listening to. Um, in fact, a lot of people would say that like I kind of like grew up under a rock. You know, like I didn't listen to like Blink 182 or the top 40 shit. Like my parents really had on like old time crooners like Nat King Cole, um, a lot of classical music, and then like Michael Jackson, which is like kind of cool.
That's a staple.
Yeah, which is like that's cool, you know, and it's like I don't know. So yeah, that's
I mean, who inspired you musically? Like, was there anyone in that genres that you discovered on your own where it kind of pushed you as far as, hey, I like these styles of music, and I feel like I can interpret this in my own way.
yeah. So interestingly, one of my basically my favorite song of all time is "Lush Life," a composition written by Billy Strayhorn, which who folks who don't know was sort of like Duke Ellington's arranger, co-composer, and some say maybe lovers, wink wink. But they had a complicated relationship because Duke was kind of possessive. He was older, you know, he sort of took Strayhorn under his wing. But Strayhorn was basically one of the only openly gay black composers and jazz musicians at the time. And because of that, like, and combined with Ellington's, like, sort of desire to, like, sort of really lay out his legacy. I think Ellington made some choices which were also really influenced by society to sort of put Strayhorn not very much in the limelight. And he ended up taking credit for a lot of the compositions that Strayhorn wrote. So a
Mm.
lot of Ellington's sound is Strayhorn. Um, but, you know, I can only speculate on what their real relationship looks like. Um, but I first was, so that song, Lush Life, the first version I heard of it was Nat King Cole's version on
Mm.
that collection. And funnily enough, um, like I forget how I discovered it, but I discovered my favorite version maybe in high school, which was the John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman version um, on their record that they did together. One of my favorite records, so good, so good.
Mm.
Um, and I just resonated with Lush Life. Like I just feel like I was a sad girl. I was just like melancholy is like something that I've like um, just sort of like existed in for a long time, and like just hearing that tune, like oh my god, like nothing has ever spoke to me like that tune has spoke to me, and it almost felt like I just felt Strayhorn's queer angst so strongly through his music. And at the time, I didn't even know who he was, or I didn't even know he was queer, but I still felt it. And I think that's amazing, you know? And what's funny about that tune, that version of that tune, is that actually Nat King Cole recorded it kind of with Strayhorn's permission, but not really, kind of against his wishes. And the only reason the Johnny Hartman, John Coltrane version exists at all is because they heard Nat King Cole's version on the radio when they were heading to the studio. So it's kind of a mind fuck that my favorite version of this tune only exists kind of against the original composer's wishes. But I'm still thankful that it does.
Yeah, thankful that it
And
exists.
it's a reminder to me that any art that you make, that you put out in the world, is sort of like no longer yours, really, once you put it out. But so Strayhorn is like probably my biggest influence. Like those sort of 7 sharp 11s, minor 7 sharp 11s, like so much of like the chords and progressions that I use are inspired by him. And, you know, a lot of the greatest arrangers that came afterward, like Gil Evans or Quincy Jones, cite Strayhorn as one of their biggest influences as well. But outside of him, another huge jazz influence on me was Herbie Hancock. I think from Herbie, I really got a lot of like those sus chords, like those, you know, those like good ass vibes from Herbie. And I feel like if I were to keep on naming jazz people, it would just go on forever.
Yeah.
But in terms of like neo soul, like D'Angelo was definitely like the biggest like mind blowing, like holy shit, like this
D'Angelo's a great pull.
Oh my god, like right. I have like an obsession right now with like just getting more drunk, like pushing the boundaries of how drunk something can feel. And for sure that all started with D'Angelo, and maybe like Moonchild and Hiatus Coyote. But oh my god, I just
So many influences.
yeah.
So
And
many
then
influences.
finally, within hip hop, I feel like some of my biggest influences include like, you know, more modern artists like No Name, Earl Sweatshirt, Tyler, Kendrick. But also recently I've been doing a deep dive into like earlier, just like maybe 90s boom bap, like Black Star and Tribe Called Quest and stuff. And as like, I also just like, I really love the sound of like Griselda. You know what I mean?
Griselda, the ad libs,
And
the
it's
everything.
like, yo, I know they're saying some shit that I don't agree with fully, but it just sounds so good. And I just like, low key, like, I would love to hear some queer type Griselda shit. That's what I want to hear. And I'm sure it's out there.
It's probably out there.
But yeah, those are like a few of my. Okay, last one. From my classical upbringing, those fucking Impressionist era okay. The Impressionist era composers, Ravel, Debussy, or Debussy, as my professor would say, it had to be pronounced. Satie, just like, oh my god, you know, their harmonies actually influenced a lot of the greats. Like, you know, Miles Davis, and I was gonna mention like Antonio Carlos Jobim and his bossa nova. A lot of that harmonically was inspired by those cats. So that's like kind of just starting to paint a picture of some of my influences.
Okay. And I feel like with all of them, all the artists you named, they have like this sense of attention to detail. And so with that attention to detail, because I feel like with your work, you capture so many layers and layers into your work. How would you say that creates an impact?
Wait, I'm curious, what do you mean by that? Like,
So like, what I mean by attention to detail is when you think of yourself as an artist, there has to be a sense of attention to detail where you focus on each single component into your music, and which I feel like you've been able to capture with part 4, and you've just been kind of able to, like you said, push the boundaries of what you can as a musician, whether it be through kind of having those ethereal experiences and all that. But how are you personally able to capture that feeling? Like, is it in the moment kind of thing, or you're just able to go in and just lock in?
Okay. Yeah, I think like there's a couple questions that I'm picking up. So like one is like where does the inspiration
Yeah,
come from, and
yes.
then another is like how is like the process like when you finish it, kind of. Is
Yes,
that
pretty much what I was trying to say. Pretty
okay? Okay.
much. I made
Yeah.
that long tune.
No, no, no. Just clarifying.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. Almost all of the songs that I've written, I'm not really a type of person, especially when it comes to like just like songs. I think with like beats, it's a little different. But with like a song, if I try to sit down and write a song, I could write maybe like a fun B section, or like I can write like a snippet, but those snippets rarely ever get fleshed out. And for me, almost like all of the songs that I've ever written initially started out as like me feeling something, or just like in a moment of like peace where my brain is shut off, like maybe if I'm in the shower or like in the car or something. And it's like just like coming to me. Like I think some people will say that's like inspiration from God. Personally, I think there's something spiritual there, but the way that I like to see it is like um, the subconscious or creativity is like a cauldron or an oven or something, you know, and every little experience you have, every question you ask yourself, every piece of art that you consume, every conversation you have, you're just like ingredients,
Mm.
putting it into the pot. And then I always say it's like you never get to choose when it comes out of the oven, you know, but it's
Mm.
like in that moment where you have to drop everything and just like get that initial idea down. And I have so many like voice memos where it's like you can hear like the car going or like the water falling. It's like or some shit. It's like almost indecipherable to anybody but me. But usually it's like a melody that will come to me from a feeling, and after I capture that and I have like an idea of what the song's about, it sort of just organically fleshes out. Like I can sort of just like once I've revealed like a certain part of the seed, the rest of it just sort of like flourishes naturally.
Mm.
So that is sort of the creative process, which can be frustrating when I'm like, I want to write more, nothing
Yeah.
comes up. As far as the attention to detail and the meticulousness, I think that is a legacy of my perfectionism that stems from my upbringing, low key.
That was deep and
But
impactful.
I think, you know, people that work with me sometimes are like, why does I have to do that? I'm like, play that voicing. Or like, move that hat, like, just 3 clicks to the left, you know? And I feel like it kind of drives people insane. It drives me insane sometimes too. Um, but I think that, like, a big part of working with other people, because all of Odyssey 1 through 4, it's like with a live band, right?
Mm.
And I could not be here without the help of the people that I've made those projects with, um, especially my longtime friend and collaborator, JD, who was actually my teacher when I was going to school for a while. And some of the tunes we actually like wrote together. Um, but as much as like we can bicker in the studio, and there was definitely some drama for sure, I feel like when just like all the stars align and like there's just that one magical take in the studio, it's like holy shit, how did that fucking happen, you know? For example, like Lifeblood, which is like our most listened to track, was initially supposed to be like a 1 minute interlude. um, but then when we were in the studio, we were just like, let's just like keep on going, you know? It's like a 2 chord thing, let's just keep on going. And then that was, I forget, it was like maybe the third take, and it was just like not, because we were just gonna fade out hella early, but it just like materialized, just like, because we had been playing together for so long, and also we had just gone off like a little unofficial tour. We kind of went to Texas and then New Orleans. We've been playing together a bunch, and I feel like it's those moments of magic with other people that really make it worth it, you know? And I think, I think what I'm realizing about collaboration is that like the attention to detail is something that I can do a lot on my own, like with myself. And then when I have other people come, it's like, okay, this is kind of what I want, but I still want to offer you some freedom to like, I want to see what you're hearing. I want to see like what's on your mind.
Yeah. And you just had a show like last week or 2 weeks ago, right?
I've been actually kind of busy
You've
recently.
been on the move.
Yeah, and I have like 3 shows this week.
Yeah, that's
Fucking Transgender Awareness Week. Let's fucking go. What was not planned. But I don't think I can plug them because I don't know when this is coming out.
Yeah, well, probably December.
It's all good. There'll be shows. There'll be shows.
There'll be shows, but
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about the show that you had. Was it 2 weeks ago or was it last week?
Was that the one at the Legion of Honor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that experience? How was that just kind of performing in that setting and kind of having that audience there?
Yeah. Well, honestly, like playing an event for Smart Bomb has been like a dream of mine for a while because so many people that I really have like admire and respect come to that circle, and so it was cool to just like to finally link up for that event, and the Legion of Honor was crazy. Like we were playing in front of the motherfucking Thinker, and the one that's like,
Oh yeah.
and I didn't even know it was the actual Thinker until like after I set. And I went over, I'm like, man, he's kind of like uglier than he is in the books. Like, he's like, or some shit. Like, he looks more constipated than thinking, low-key.
That's insane.
But yeah, I've been incorporating the vocoder more into my sets, which I feel like has been a lot of fun. And yeah, it was a cool gig. It was like, it's kind of interesting when you like Legion of Honor is a 100-year-old institution with like baggage, and like Soul Light Collective was wearing keffiyehs that day, and people complained about them. You know what I mean? So there's also an element of like white stuffiness at this event, but I think what Smart Bomb was trying to do is like trying to bring some fresh energy into that spot, and I think we did. So
Yeah, and kind of just having that Bay Area energy. How important is you being from the Bay Area kind of felt in your music, if it is felt into your music?
Well, first of all, like I am not originally from the Bay Area.
We're living in the Bay Area.
But I've been here for maybe 10 years, and I would consider it my home for sure. I think a lot of people that want to like advance their careers from the Bay that end up eventually moving to LA or New York, which I respect and I understand. But for me, like, this is like where the queers are at, This is where like my fucking like-minded, open-minded fucking stoners, fucking, ketamine enjoyers, or I mean ketamine enjoyers are anywhere, but you know what I mean? It's like a
Berkeley
very
type flow.
specific type of people, like laid back, chill, like maybe a little, on the East Coast, everyone's like, this is how it is. It's like, fuck you, but I love you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Bay Area is like, oh, it's all love, but low-key, like this and that. But shit, that's me too, you know what I mean? And like, I don't know, there's just like so many beautiful people here, and like you were saying earlier, like there's just so much like talent out here that doesn't really get the spotlight that it deserves. And so thank you for like uplifting that.
Oh, yeah. No problem. That's the whole objective is just digging deeper with music. But, one of the songs that I really want to talk about that resonated with me personally, and this is a little bit of a funny story, but at the same time, it kind of is. So, I was listening to Blossom Sauce, and that was a song that, to be honest with you, caught me incredibly off guard because when I first started listening to your music, it was the freestyle. It was the little freestyle that you had, and then you had that promo where you say like men suck and stuff like that. And I'm like, dang, this goes hard. I mean, I'm a man, but this goes hard. And then I listened to Blossom Sauce because I was just kind of like, just when I discovered music, I like kind of put the playlist, I put the album on shuffle because I like to be caught off guard. So in a way, I'm kind of a menace because I don't just start play an album from start to finish. I shuffle it. But Blossom Sauce came on, and like I was listening to the first couple of seconds of it, and then it went to the and I'm like, is is this Oddity? Like that caught me so off guard. So I do want to know about the process behind that song.
Yeah. So what specifically about it feels different from the other stuff?
I would say not even the other stuff, just in general from the music I listen to, it definitely has that jazz influence that you were talking about. Like, because for me, I'm starting to get more into the jazz lane as well, but it's a lot more, I'll say common, like Sade, John Coltrane, Herbie Hancock, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Kind of like the same artists that you were mentioning, but I feel like for me, when I listened to that, it reminded me of those artists in that sense of just like I feel safe when I listen to that song.
Oh,
Yeah, type
I'm
of flow.
glad.
Yeah.
Oh my God, where did that song come from?
You don't even remember it.
Definitely the idea. The thing that first came to me was like, um, yeah, I don't know. I think I just like, I do have this side of me that is a little more playful, a little more open, a little bit more like less serious about things, I think. That is maybe a little less represented within the Odyssey because it's something that I sort of like thought as like a very serious thing. But actually, I have it's like a almost like an Odyssey B-sides little EP, like called the Q EP. That is just like a collection of songs that are just like, oh, this is like really nice. And Blossom Sauce was actually supposed to be on that EP, but then I was like, oh, this like really fits the vibe of like what I'm trying to go for part 4. But yeah, I think that was just like, I really love like breakbeat music, and like at the time I didn't really know much about programming, like drums or anything. So I was like, let's do it live, And then JD was like, oh, let's make that middle section 3/4, you know. And then I feel like that was another one where it was just like kind of one of those magical takes, you know. Um, and yeah, I wish I could. I feel like the feeling behind the song. This is one of the rare instances where, usually like for another song, it's like I have a very specific like the feeling and like just the vibe and like what it's about almost comes at the same time as the song. But for this one, it was just like the song came up. I'm like, oh, that's cute. And then later on, I was like, oh, this like kind of feels like the joy and euphoria of just like being able to be yourself, you know? And for the longest time, it was just called Drum and Bass Song. And I think naming it Blossom Sauce is just the idea of like, oh, this is like, it's estrogen, low-key. Which I was gonna name it Estrogen: 3 at first, and I was like, and then somehow I thought of Blossom Sauce, but
Thank you for naming it Blossom Sauce.
yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
true. Of
Thank
course,
you
because
for
I don't
that.
want to, I don't want to, because that's like, because the people that know, like, oh, that's estrogen, but I don't want it to be like exclusive to anyone that doesn't,
And
you
it's
know.
also easier for me to search up. I can just type in
True.
Blossom Sauce,
Yeah.
and like it'll be like one of the first things that pop up when I
Although
search it up.
there are a couple joints named estrogen, but actually not that many.
Nah, not that many.
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah.
incredibly grateful for me personally. So I do want to ask: is there other forms of art that you get inspired by? So it could be like literal physical art. It could be films. It can be like any version of art. Nature that our presence outside can be inspiring. What I'm curious on what other forms of art inspire you as well outside of music.
Yeah. I feel like I tend to draw inspiration from just like a lot of different aspects of my life, be it like just being out with nature or with people. Um, a lot of the times it's just like walking around and then experiencing something that like makes me like think of some random shit, and I'm like, oh shit, let me write that down
Mm.
in the proverbial notebook because I'm not organized like that.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way.
But I really like I really like a lot of film. I'm not like a super film head, but like I draw a lot of inspiration from like really like surrealist and just kind of like ethereal stuff in general, which I feel like, at least from what I've seen, just like has been really beautifully expressed in film.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I guess I was gonna say music again. Shit. I love like narrative albums. You know what I mean? I love like Good Kid, Mad City. You know, or just like albums that like are kind of a movie, or just like kind of have like an arc through them. And I hope that if people listened to parts 1 through 4 from beginning to end, it would sort of have like a sort of arc there.
Mm. And I'll leave it at this because I know we talked about this off camera, but anything you could talk about now, like anything that you can talk about what you have in store, what is it that you're willing to talk about? It could be upcoming shows, anything that you are free to talk about.
Yeah. So if any of y'all girlies out there are doing ketamine like me, make sure to have some green tea on the side, okay? Because that can actually vastly reduce your chance of developing ketamine cystosis. And other than that, stay tuned.
So, in short summary, she does have things in store, but she is willing to talk about it at her own time, which is very exciting. But I just want to say to close things off.
Got a seed. Shit.
Yeah, I just
That
want to
shit's
close.
bitter.
I want to close it off on this because where I'm incredibly grateful just to be out here, be in a space where I have the opportunity of talking about who you are and just kind of having that light, no pun intended, because the light is literally on your face, kind of reflect who you are as an artist and kind of just having that opportunity of, giving you your flowers because you do deserve that.
Oh, thank you. What flowers? Talking.
Some roses, maybe,
Oh my god.
some daisies.
Roses? Okay. Oh my god.
Adi, it's been such a pleasure.
Daisies from Day. Daisies.
Stop.
Okay.
It's been
That
a
could be a
pleasure.
brand.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you.